which, I mean, I really like my IMAX movies. I can't think of a cinema experience that is like it, and I really enjoy, whether it be a documentary or whether it's a feature film, I love seeing it in that massive format with a big sound. Back from the Brink, well, 45 minutes, as all these docos are. Without intervention, half of all species could be pushed to the edge of extinction by the end of this century. And that's not gilding the lily. That's the frightening fact that's presented by the narrator, Claire Danes, at the start of a quite remarkable documentary. Some awe-inspiring cinematography. That's one of the features, of course, of IMAX. It's 3D, this one. It charts the demise and recovery of 3 species. So the first of those, the Channel Island fox, size of a domestic cat, that can only be found on the islands off the southern Californian coast. The fox population, the Channel Island fox population, plummeted to barely 1,000 as they were preyed upon from the air by the golden eagle. The golden eagle was not native to the area. What was native to the area was the bald eagle. The bald eagle is a fish eater, which the golden eagle needs its meat, and that's the problem that we had with these domestic cat-sized foxes. So the reason that the bald eagle disappeared was that the pesticide DDT was dumped into the ocean and it killed the bald eagle's food source. So you've got a 3-tier mission to try to save the fox from extinction, and the details of that are in Back from the Brink. Then part 2, if you like, we move to Yunnan, which is a province in southwestern China, home to the golden monkey. Beautiful, beautiful creature. Dwells at a higher altitude than any other primate. Hunters reduced the population of these magnificent creatures, the animals, which thrive on lichen during winter because its traditional food source isn't available because of the height that they are, and it's just simply not there. And it reduced the population to fewer than 1,500 of the golden monkey. And then you've got the efforts of an academic and his guide, and we should say also the Chinese government, turning the golden monkey's habitat into a nature reserve, and that's the second story. And then we go to Christmas Island, which, of course, is northwest of Australia. And you've got these tiny stowaways on a cargo ship that have, well, decimated a paradise. And what I'm talking about here is, I've never heard of them, but they're called yellow crazy ants. And these ants have stowed away on a cargo ship, and suddenly their number has grown to, wait for this, 15 billion. And when you've got 15 billion of anything, you can imagine it threatens the web of life where anybody else or anything else is trying to thrive and, well, survive in the first instance and thrive secondly. So among those affected was the previously prolific red crab. And the importance of the red crab to the Christmas Islands is it fertilises the soil. So the solution here, or the attempted solution, was from biologists from Parks Australia. So it's good because it's, you know, homegrown and all of that stuff. So we find out about that in Back from the Brink. I was just thinking, if only it was that easy, Peter, to cut down the population of cane toads that were introduced into Australia in 1935. If you remember, they were introduced to try to control agricultural pests, and I don't think that they'll ever be eliminated given how prolific they are. What did you think of Back from the Brink?
Well, for me, I use Antarctica recently as a benchmark for a nicely made, tongue-in-cheek, to some extent, narrated documentary, which also had some very good points to make about the ecology and the environment. Unfortunately, this film, Back from the Brink, doesn't live up, for me, to that sort of benchmark.
Why?
For a start, the narration is very prosaic, and even though it's factual and there's information, Claire Danes may not have necessarily been the best choice. She sounds a bit bored as she's sort of narrating the film. Really? Secondly,
I disagree. I thought she was really strong. I thought she gave us insight. It was well told. It was clear. I found it inspiring. So it's interesting. I had a different take on her entirely. Keep going, please.
It felt more like a lecture than it was a real presentation. Secondly, the red crabs story on the Christmas Island has been dealt with before in an Australian documentary. And so I thought, I'm watching something that I've already seen, and I'm not necessarily learning anything particularly new. Overall, it's nicely shot. A benchmark for me is also whether 3D enhances a film in IMAX or doesn't. In this case, the 3D had very little effect for me in enhancing the storyline. So overall, I was a bit disappointed by, even though the film itself deals with an important issue about saving creatures, etc., that might become extinct, nevertheless, I don't think it did it that well.
I have a totally different take on it because I thought it was powerful, I thought it was affecting, and I thought the close-up cinematography of the animals and the insects is as wondrous as it is illuminating. I marvelled at what I was seeing, Dave.
Yeah, I was the same. I was really impressed, actually, because I followed Sean Casey's career, the director. I was a huge fan of his Storm Chasers TV series, and of course he went on to do Tornado Alley and Extreme Weather for IMAX. So I love the fact that he's branched away from that now and he's gone out into nature documentaries because he's always been a documentary maker that's had a good eye for detail. The only thing I would have changed with this documentary was I'm not sure if having the crabs last was a great idea because the fox was cute and fluffy, the monkey was beautiful, and then all of a sudden you had an animal that looked like it was going to bite my hand. I would have changed that around a little bit and maybe had them in the middle, just so that it kind of left on one of the nicer animals that you can kind of relate to more as a human. But I thought it was a great documentary, a great way to educate people, and I like the fact that it was a positive documentary. It was looking at endangered species, but it was looking at how humanity has brought them back from the brink, like the name suggests. So I really enjoyed that. It wasn't another doomsday documentary. It was more of a, this is how humanity can actually help animals.
Yeah, look, the IMAX experience, I think, is unparalleled, and I liked dividing the narrative into the three components. It worked very well for me, and it leaves you with the hope that with the proper and timely intervention that was responsible for bringing these three creatures back from the brink, endangered and at-risk species do stand a chance. So I reckon it's aimed at... I went to the education screening before the main one, and because the main one was full, and I was very grateful that I could go along. And they say it's aimed at they said year 4 level and above. And I would reckon that this is something that could appeal to youngsters and can inspire them. So let's get a score out of 10 from you, back from the brink, Dave.
I'm going to give this one 8 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I'm giving it an 8. And Peter?
It certainly has an educational perspective, no denying that, but I just felt it was more ho-hum as a documentary. I would have liked something a bit sharper, so I give it 6 out of 10.
Let me briefly talk to you